All right, folks. So, good evening, and thanks once again for joining us on the. I think this is the fifth episode of the Microsoft Defender XDR Zero to Hero webinar series. So, in today's session, we are going to talk about getting started with Microsoft Defender for Office 365. This is part three, as in part three of getting started with Microsoft Defender for Office 365. Right. So, if you haven't had the opportunity to see the previous parts, I would highly recommend all of you to go back to our YouTube channel and take a look at the part one and part two, which is sort of the prerequisites for attending this session. But any which ways, we'll be able to talk certain points here and there about what we covered in part one and part two. So with that, let's get started. So about the speakers. So myself, my name is Vignesh Ganeshan. I'm an enterprise architect and a technology strategist. I'm also a Microsoft MVP and MCT. I've been in the industry for almost close to 13 plus years now, dealt a lot with Microsoft 365, Microsoft Azure, and security. So that's my specialty. And today we'll be talking in detail about Defender for Office 365. So with that, let me hand it over to my co-speaker, Samik. So Samik, over to you.
Thank you, Vignesh, and welcome everyone. Myself, Samik, and I'm another MVP in security based out of India, similar to Vignesh, and also a cloud security architect and an author for a book on KQL for Sentinel. And I'm here to accompany Vignesh with the slides, details, and the demos. So with that, thank you. Over to you, Vignesh.
Thanks, Samik. All right, folks, let's get moving on. So this is something which we keep showing in all our slides just to make sure that each of us understand what's the expectation from this webinar series. So just wanted to throw out these points out there. So the targeted audience are, the M365 admins or architects, or you could be somebody who's coming from the Azure side of house, that, and you could be a cloud engineer, a cloud architect, a solution architect, or maybe you're somebody who's an IT security professional, right? So no matter whichever background you're coming from, we do expect that you have a basic understanding of Microsoft 365 or Azure, because this webinar series doesn't cater to, or else we are not planning to talk about the basics of Microsoft 365 or Azure, because we are assuming that you already have a basic amount of understanding on that. Secondly, the end goal. So the end goal of this complete webinar series is to make sure that you get yourself familiarized with all the Microsoft Defender XDR products, the implementation methods, the different licensings that are out there, and also the best practices if at all you're looking to implement this in your organization. And then the third point here to bear in mind is, so the key takeaways, right? So at the end of this webinar series, we want to make sure that you have a clear understanding of what Microsoft Defender XDR is all about, what are the different products that are there in the suite, and also why even XDR is considered, why is it even important for an organization which has a lot of cloud footprints, right? And what problem is Microsoft Defender XDR trying to solve for you? So these are the different things that you could take away at the end of the complete webinar series. And then how do we plan to run this? If at all you've already been joining our webinar series in the past, you would pretty much understand the drill by now. But then the way we did this is, for the first two sessions was more of an introductory stuff. And then from then onwards, we decided that we should double click into each of the product and go from there. So that's what we've been basically doing. For instance, we had three sessions which was targeted for Microsoft Defender for Office 365. So today will be the last session for Defender for Office 365, and then we are planning to focus on Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, right? And the goal is to have at least 12 to 15 sessions in this webinar series. It can be even more, but we want to make sure that we are giving enough coverage to each and every single product stack. We want to make sure that we are just not skipping things. There should be enough weightage given to all the products that are there in the suite. So these would be bi-weekly sessions planned on Saturdays at 6 p.m. IST. Of course, all these sessions will be recorded and it will be published on my YouTube channel so that you can watch it on demand later. Each session we are planning to run it for 60 minutes, wherein the first 50 minutes would be for the session in itself, and the last 10 minutes we are planning to dedicate it to Q&As or any open discussion that you'd like to have, related to Defender for Office 365 or Microsoft Defender XDR for that matter. And at the end of the session, we'll also be sharing a QR code, which should take you to a Microsoft form. So we basically want to, try and understand and get the feedback of the sessions or for the entire webinar series for that matter. And if at all you have any questions that you would like to ask to us, right? You can also post the questions there, and we can, answer those questions in the following sessions. All right. So in terms of agenda, we have a very crisp agenda today. So we'll be talking about, I'll begin by talking about the overview of Microsoft Defender for Office 365 Plan 2 capabilities. And then we have a demo planned on the Plan 2 capabilities. Now, the way we are going to do this is already on the last week's session, we spoke about, we at least demoed 3 to 4 Plan 2 capabilities. And in today's session, we are planning to demo the remaining 3 to 4 capabilities, right? So that we've got everything covered. And then I'll also be sharing some useful links. So these links should help you to get started with the Plan 2 capabilities. And of course, finally, we'll be opening for the Q&A. Okay, so let's move. So this is a diagram which I keep showing in all my sessions just to make sure that you're refreshing your memory, right? So when you look at Microsoft Defender XDR, it's nothing but this unified chute which brings together all the different products, right? So you have the Defender for identity, you have Defender for endpoint, you have Defender for Office 365, you have Defender for cloud apps, and everything comes under this one single umbrella called as Microsoft Defender XDR. So it's a unified defense is how we would call it as, right? So what this is going to help you do is it's going to help you take care of the hybrid identities in your environment. When I say hybrid, both on-prem and also the cloud identities, it's also going to help secure the endpoints, workstations, mobile devices, tablets, IoT devices, pretty much anything that would be referred to as an endpoint can be secured using Microsoft Defender XDR. And then the email and collaboration, all the mails that you would use, and also all the the SharePoint stuff, the OneDrive stuff, all the documents that you put there, those can also be secured and governed using it. And then the other SaaS apps also. So the story doesn't end only with the Microsoft 365 apps. You can also extend it to other third-party cloud SaaS solutions also. For instance, it could be in Box, right? Or it could be something that you have put in your Google Workspace. So all those things can be secured using Defender for XDR also. And then other cloud workloads also. It's just not for SaaS. If at all you want to extend this to an IaaS or PaaS offering also, even that is also possible. Okay. So these are the Plan 2 capabilities at a very high level. So in last week's session, we went through under prevent and detect, we spoke about attack simulation training. We did a deep dive demo on what attack simulation training is all about and what it can help to accomplish. And under automate, investigate, and respond, we spoke about threat trackers and also threat explorer. Right. So today we want to spend our time and talk about the automated investigation and response, advanced hunting, then how to investigate incidents in Microsoft 365 Defender, and what do we mean by investigating alerts in Microsoft 365 Defender. Okay, so let's move on. So in terms of licensing, so these are the different SKUs that offers you the MDO Plan 1 and Plan 2 capability, and all of these are a per user subscription, meaning every single user in your tenant should be licensed or should be having this queue. Only then he or she is entitled to be secured by Defender for Office 365. So in that, we have Office 365, E5, A5, or G5. If you're looking at Microsoft 365, you have E5, A5, and so on and so forth, right? So these are all the different SKUs which gives you the Plan 1 and Plan 2 capability. If at all you're more interested to know, I'm just looking for Plan 1, which SKU gives me that, right? So we did a detailed session called as demystifying Microsoft Defender XDR licensing. I believe that was a very second session of this webinar series. I would highly recommend that you all go and take a look at the recording. It's in the YouTube channel. So that we've spoken in detail about which SKUs gives you access to MDO Plan 1 and which SKUs gives you access to MDO Plan 2, what is possible using Plan 1 and what is possible using Plan 2. We did a deep dive on that, right? So please make sure that you focus on that session, so that should give you a very detailed information on the different licensing SKUs that are out there. So with that, let's talk about our very first capability on the Plan 2, which is the automated investigation and response, which is nothing but the AIR, right? So as the name itself says, it says automated investigation and response, which clearly means that you could automate the investigation and response capability, right? So what this basically helps is AIR enables the security operations team to operate more effectively and efficiently because it's going to automate that. And AIR capabilities include automated investigation process in response to well-known threats that exist today. Because a lot of threats that you see out there, of course, some of them are well-known threats. You know that these are the threats that are out there, and it is coming after it. And some of them are new threats, right? So what if you could at least, automate the remediation process, or you know how to go about these well-known threats, right? So that you can focus on the new threats or the threats that really matter. While for the other threats, you've built a process or a workflow so that anytime any of these threats comes to your environment, you know how to, at least the defender for Office 365 knows what actions it needs to take and how to go ahead and remediate it. So Samik is going to show a detailed demo on on how the workflow works. When a threat comes in, what are the different vectors that it looks at and how the complete flow works. So everything Samik is going to talk about. But just bear in mind that when I say automated investigation and response, simply trying to say that the complete investigation on a threat as well as the response can be automated, so that maybe you as a security operation, somebody who's part of the SecOps team, or if there is a team in your organization which is responsible for that, they don't need to spend the time and in putting their effort in doing the investigation and also the response to it. The next piece that I want to talk about is the advanced hunting capability. So as the name itself says, it is more of a advanced hunting. What if you want to dive deep and perform some hunting? So it's nothing but a query based threat hunting tool that can help you to explore up to 30 days of raw data, right? And if your question is, what if I want to go beyond that? What if I want to, let's say, for the last 60 days or 70 days or 90 days? Well, that's possible. You just need to make sure that you're pushing your logs to a sim, and there are different ways that you can go about doing it, right? And the best part is you can proactively inspect events in your network to locate threat indicators and entities. So that this is what is really key. It's not more of a reactive approach wherein something happens and then you start doing the firefighting. That's not what this is all about, right? It also gives you an option to proactively inspect the events in your network to locate threat indicators and entities, so that you basically try to understand what's happening in your environment, what's happening with all the different maybe your emails, endpoints, workstations, everything, what's going on there. So it gives you that proactive approach, and it is just not something which is a reactive one to all the alerts out there. Right. So of course, when a demo, we'll be talking about how to use the advanced hunting capabilities. The next one is investigate alerts in Microsoft Defender XDR. So we all know that this Microsoft Defender XDR is a XDR shoot from Microsoft, right? So which means a lot of alerts are going to be generated out there. So when I say alerts, now say for instance, when there is a attack happening on my identity, which is my, let's say, my Entra ID account, right? So the moment an attack happens there, an alert will be generated saying that, hey, somebody is trying to doing a brute force, or there is an anomaly activity in your account. So it would generate an alert. Now, let's say after that attack happened, the attacker is trying to, take advantage of my mailbox, and he's trying to do something there, right? For that, an alert will be generated. Let's say from that, he keeps moving laterally and he tries to install some malicious files on my desktop or in my PC. Now, for that, an alert will be happen. So what I mean is, for each and every single malicious activity that's being performed, an alert will be triggered in Microsoft Defender XDR, so that you can click on that alert and you can understand what's happening, what exactly is this alert talking about. Now all these alerts, they come together. Now you might ask, right, well, Vignesh, how efficient is it for a person to sit and troubleshoot all these alerts? That's a lot of time that's going to take, right? So that's where the incident piece comes into picture. When I say an incident, it's multiple alerts tied together. Now think of the same story which I spoke about, right? The anatomy of that attack, right? So somebody has tried to hack my account, and then once he got access to my account, he went after my mailbox, and then he went after my workstations, and then he went after the SharePoint sites that I have access to, right? What if all these alerts can be tagged to a single incident, so that just by looking at that incident, you know that this is what the attacker has done. This is what he has done on my account. This is what he has done on my workstation. This is what he has done on my mailbox. This is what he has done to the SharePoint site that I have access to. That's why you get a complete 360-degree picture. So even that is also possible using a Microsoft Defender XDR. So one is the alert story, and the next is how all these alerts, can come together and form an incident, so that when you are troubleshooting it, it is easy for you. And also, if you have a ticketing system, right? Maybe you're using your service now or whatever is out there, right? They can go. You can configure it in such a way that a ticket is logged, that an incident is created there also. And of course, in the demo, we'll be talking about this in detail. And then finally, the MITRE ATT&CK framework, right? So you might have come across this a lot, specifically if you're started reading a lot about Microsoft Defender XDR of late, or if you're somebody who's already in the inside of the house, you would see this MITRE ATT&CK framework being discussed everywhere. So it's very simple, as the name itself says. It's nothing but it's let's call it as a repository which is out there. It's a free repository. So MITRE in itself is think of it, it's a non-profit organization. It is a non-profit organization, and they have this framework which is basically nothing but it keeps the knowledge of all the basic tactics and techniques designed for threat hunters, defenders, and red teams to help classify attacks, identify attack attributions and objectives, and so anything that you want to understand about an attack, right? So to understand the anatomy of an attack on an enterprise level, or maybe for a particular mobile device, or for, let's say, anything of that matter, think of this as a reference framework wherein you can go refer to it and understand what are the different kind of techniques. Using this technique, what is possible, what are the different lateral movements possible using that technique. So pretty much everything is out there, right? Don't confuse yourself that this is a repository of all the attacks. It is not a repository. It is a framework which can help you to build your own internal repository. You can use this as a reference framework and build your own repository, which is possible. But this is just not a repository of all the attacks out there. I'm pretty sure it's not possible, humanly possible, for one to go ahead and build such a repository. But think of this as a reference framework. So with that, enough of me talking. It's time for the detailed demo. I'll hand it over to Samik for the demo. So Samik, over to you.
Thank you, Vignesh. And I would like to share my screen. And if you could confirm, you can see that. Hope you're able to see this.
Yep, I can see it now. Yeah, you're good to go.
All right. So fundamentally, I think just I'll pick up where Vignesh just left. That for example, if you're using Defender, one thing we have to understand. I'll quickly jump onto other tab here. One thing we need to understand that the moment you start using Defender are going to pick up all our data and then whatever alerts or incidents, or I would say the entities, whatever you see Defender picks up, it basically picks up on the raw data collected by Defender. Now we know that Defender being an XDR system, it has its own capabilities, but that also gives us, or as an analyst or as a security person, that option that we can go ahead and then play around with the raw data and then build our own stuff. Or if we are experienced in security field, we know how things works and what to ask and what to look for, and we can go and query the data, and that's the proactive part of it, right? And if you look at the navigation, have just navigated in the left navigation, hunting, advanced hunting, and I will quickly switch to the schema tab because it's the full license. I can see everything, but today we're going to mostly talk about everything on email and collaboration, and this everything falls under all the email stuff for different for office. So what we can do as an analyst, so there are two possibilities. One, we come here as a very fresh person having no idea what it is, and then you can start writing queries. And even there is a case that we don't know, right, like where to start and how to write a query. The long language is called Kusta query language. So if we have no idea, but still we have the fair enough understanding of what this table contains, we can just click on this. And then once you click on this, there are two options, right? Query in editor or query in builder. So first of all, I would like to go for query in builder. When we use that, right, it basically, if you look at, opens a guided option. Like this is more of a drag and drop things where you can pick things and search location, search application name, and all these things are going to pop up. So fundamentally what this screen is going to give you is a UI tool wherein you can select and build your queries, and once you can also load some examples, right, which will
Samik,
load up
if
some.
possible, can you just zoom in? I think you're getting a feedback on that. Yeah, if you could just zoom
uh,
your browser so that on the recording it's easy to see all the things that you're saying. Just zoom it.
is
Yeah,
it is it
yeah.
good now?
This
All
is
right,
this is
thank
better. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. So basically, coming back to the same point that this interface let us write a query, even we have no idea about the query language, right? And then when you start writing the query, we understand, okay, how the query looks like, and then we can start building query in editor. And that gives us a screen with intelligence, right? So what I have done in here is try to build a small query which will help us understand that. And this is again Microsoft offered query, so nothing rocket science or nothing I wrote. It's picked up from Microsoft GitHub repo. So we are looking at email URL info, which is basically any mail transaction happens with the domain. If it is a received mail or if it is a send mail by your sender within the domain, if it has a URL, that's gonna capture that. And what this query simply is doing, that if the URL you are sending, right, that has a redirect, for example, that might be the email might say that go to microsoft.com and then redirect to somewhere else. So that's what the malicious URL contains, right? So it's a very, very simple hack that what attackers do when they send an email. That the email look legit because it is pointing to Microsoft website, but when you click on it, it's going to redirect. And that's where the fact here is that we can go ahead and try to understand and advance hunt things here. So that's all about advanced hunting. And I ran this query in our environment, and you can obviously do that for last 7 days, and the max you see 30 days, because as Vignesh mentioned, the data is kept here for maximum 30 days by Microsoft. In case if we want to store it more, we have to configure a SIEM, which is Microsoft Sentinel or any other SIEM provided by any other vendor, or we can store it to a storage account or stream it to Event Hub for a longer term storage, right? So that we can use it for forensics and other purposes. Now, this is a case or standard case where I would say we have enough time that, okay, we know defenders are working, our policies are really working fine. All the policies are set in stone almost, or kind of frozen. And then our alerts and incidents are also optimized. Then eventually we're going to do that. But what if we start with defender and we don't have enough time or enough resources to kind of do this part, and we are really getting flooded with incidents, right? That's where the part of automated investigation response comes in. Now for that I will use the left navigation, scroll down bit, and let me go to explorer. While explorer loads, with Defender Plan 2, Microsoft gives us flexibility. There are certain alerts. For example, it's a phishing alert or malware alert, as you can see here, right? If one of the policies picks up those alerts, you can automatically, remediate all those things. But imagine that as an analyst, we come here and then we want to specifically look at something. Let's say take this one, right? Email list valid 100% any country in the world. So this looks something suspicious, right? Now one way is the standard way we as an analyst get into that incident, and then or get into that email thread, look at entire thing, go to advanced hunting, write queries, or use different entity screen, like go to the email address, go to the user, and understand, okay, is it really legit, or we need to do something. The other thing is we can simply try to click on this link, and once we click it, you can see take action. So I would say I'm going to click on take action. And when I say take action, what to do with that? So what I'd look to do, I don't want to do anything because really we have no idea it's a legit mail or a false alarm, or it's a real threat. So I'm going to initiate an automated investigation. Again, this can be done automatically or it happens automatically in cases, but this is just I'm showing as a demonstration so that we understand what the flow looks like, and you can initiate an automated investigation on demand as well. So there are two options right now here. Once we're going to initiate an automated investigation, and then when initiate, we can also propose a remediation, right? And let's go for a create new. Add one will add the existing one, and the new one, it basically said it will trigger a soft delete email, and then it will go for an approval. That means as an analyst, even if you start an automated investigation, that doesn't let you do some actions without by Microsoft automatically without you knowing it. So let me just uncheck this box for now, and just initiate it. And what I'm going to do is initiate investigate the recipient, right? And let me click next, and it's going to say the recipient. I would say webinar demo recipient, uh, recipient email AIR. So just given this name so that it's easy to track later. And I'm gonna go next. Before I go next, what action I'm taking? Investigate the recipient. That's the mailbox, and it's in the scope of MDO. Then I'm gonna hit next. Then it's finally as every other Microsoft screen, it lets you review. If you have something to be changed, you go back and change it. If not, it just lets you the final review, and then I'm going to review it once again and then say submit. Right, you see the moment it's submitted, right, there are two ways. We can go back to investigations page once again, or we can click on the link. And let me click on the link for a moment. And what actually happened behind the scene when I submitted, it went to Defender, and you can see this took me to the investigation screen. And this is where the investigation links also in the left navigation. So you can use either one of two ways to kind of go to the investigation screen. And this will list down again, depending on the filter you applied and depending on the time range. So basically it is doing for last 1 day's time range filter. You can go further like if you want to. Now there are a couple of things wherein you have status completed. That means it ran and it completed. And this is the recent one which I just submitted, and you see the duration is running. And if you look at the duration for the existing one, right? Let's say what where myself and Vignesh, we are doing some hands-on over here, and then over last 1 day, you see one thread found, two, and it has. Let me just expand the thread count this, but fundamentally no thread. You know, no thread actually identifier found because we targeted two entities here. Now, just to take an example, let's open one of the existing one, right? Let me open one of the existing remediations, not remediation, I would say the investigation. And once I open it, as what Vignesh mentioned in the presentation, right, you can see this is all done by Microsoft itself. This is nothing we as an analyst did. It is an investigation graph, and that graph itself shows you the relation and the entire map of that particular particular incident. So basically it has analyzed a couple of things. It has analyzed one IP address, it has analyzed for email clusters. And so that means it not only, when I say initiate or investigate the sender, it doesn't only investigate the sender, it goes further. And then it goes and it has done an it has analyzed a mailbox as well. And in the left hand side, if you look at the metadata, it has started on yesterday morning, and it took around 30 minutes, right, and completed, and nothing found. And it is a information alert. Right now, if I go to alerts, it'll just show the alert associated with that admin triggered one. Right, that means this is me being an admin, I triggered this as a manual one, which I just did for another one. And it has mailboxes because we are in the scope of Defender for Office. It has mailbox, which mailbox it is, because no threats found, no risk level, no evidence because nothing actually suspicious found. And coming to the entities, it basically picked up the entities. So if I go one by one for each of them, this is the IP address, public IP address, which was used while the mail was sent. And also the email clusters. Obviously, if you see the clusters, what are used there, right? And if I look at the email count and everything, even actually around the clusters also, it has looked at a malware, fish, and high confidence fish, spam, delivered chunk, all those details around the clusters. Now, this is what the outcome of the investigation. Now, let's look at, if I go to logs, what happened during the investigation, right? So if I look at the timeline, it starts from top to bottom, right? It says mail forward rule limit investigation. It checked was it a mail forwarding rule, user activity, investigation for malicious mail sent, outbound mail, mail delegation investigation, sender IP, because we selected that investigation to look at the sender IP as well, mail cluster volume. That means is that cluster is really heavy and sending a lot of emails, and that has fish and all, which you also have seen as an outcome in the entities, right? Then cluster volume analysis, because there are like 4 clusters. That's how I see that 4 records here. After all these things, and even you have the duration for each of the investigation being done. So this is what is totally automatically done within a single single action when he initiated automated investigation response, right? Then imagine that you are in a SOC and then you have really high volume tickets or high volume incidents. Therein, you can definitely initiate it and then kind of forget it, right? So basically, what happens there is it does all the due diligence as an analyst what's supposed to be done. So thanks for the question, Purab. So what mail cluster means, mail cluster is like just the half what Microsoft uses, right, to forward your mails. And then it's not that somebody publicly sends you, let's say you send a Gmail, personal Gmail to your official address or a corporate domain. It doesn't come directly, right? It goes to exchange goes to servers, and that has some clusters which distributes the email, and it basically comes to certain hops through exchanges, right? It doesn't happen. That's why when it saw that there are 4 Ps in the root, so it basically analyzed all those things, right? Now that's one thing I would say. What is the existing one, right? Now coming back to, let's go to, same thing. We would go to, let me go to Explorer once again. And this time, what we will do is we will not only initiate automated incident response, we'd also trigger a remediation. So let me go to the same one, right? So, or maybe let's take a different one. So I'm gonna click on that subject that opens. I would say take action and expand that. What to do? You can always do submit for reviews, but we're talking about automated investigation, right? So let me check that checkbox. I'm gonna say investigate sender, just a different one, and propose a remediation and create a new one. And what it does, this will trigger a soft delete and it will be pending. That means we are doing two things together. Number one, we are initiating an automated response or automated investigation, and also we are tagging a response for remediation, assuming that that mail can be malicious. So if I'm going to hit next, so I'd say again, webinar demo AI. Okay, webinar demo AIR and remediate. And this time there are two mailboxes, which is all right. Um, Investigation of sender and create new remediation. So you know why this thing changed? Because if you look at the previous one, let me copy this. What I'm selecting here is I'm saying investigate the senders. That's where the defender, the first mailbox comes in. And the remediation I can only apply which is within the domain. That means the mailbox the mail was sent to. So that's where defender have a no reply is the investigate initiate the sender, on which the investigation will happen. And then if you look at Vignesh email box, that's where we are trying to set up a remediation so that we should be able to delete or soft delete the mail what is being sent. So let's go to next, review and submit. As usual, same details, and we're gonna just submit it. Now once this is submitted, you would see a different kind of output message here compared to the last time. So obviously it failed because there is, I'm trying to do something on Defender Microsoft, that's possible the reason. But here what happened is one action completed and it is sent to Action Center for approval, right? So if I click on the Action Center from here, it opened a new tab, and you can see because we have tagged a remediation, right? I'd say go to pending because it went to history. So there are two things pending. Once I initiated earlier, once now. So if I just click on this, select this, you see it has submitted this, and I think this is the one, or yeah, anything on this sort. It has submitted here, and I am here. Okay, I have in here option to approve or reject it, basically, right? So that's the kind of different options. So that means if we are initiating an automated incident response, we can very well initiate the investigation and Microsoft can do that. But the moment we want to take an action, for example, MDO, for MDO, we're going to delete the mailbox, right? That's the option as a new available. So for that to happen as an admin, we need to go and approve an action center. It's not that anybody can take an action or as a part of remediation, we can take action. Now there can be two cases. We are confident enough as an analyst that okay, the mail is anyway, that's a bad mail, we know that, or and we want to anyway soft delete it, we can go ahead and delete it right away from Action Center, or we can wait for the investigation to complete and conclude that, okay, was it really a threat found there or not? And accordingly, we can come here and kind of delete, approve, or cancel it. So these are the two things what we could do in a part of automated incident response, right? Another thing what I was wanted to show here is the MITRE one when you talk about all these things. So a little bit of details, I'll quickly switch to the MITRE one, and this is the MITRE website, https attack.mitre.org, and this is the one for enterprise. So MITRE is more of a framework which is used, and Defender, whenever you get an incident, right? I'm going to jump onto the incident screen and will in a while in Defender. So any incident is created or generated by Defender, that's mostly gets tagged with the MITRE techniques and tactics. Now, why this is important and how this framework makes sense in Defender actually. Number one, so if you look at as an attacker, mostly will follow any of this option to get into the system. So let's say, let's take an example of we have a user A in our tenant, right? So somebody has sent a malicious email to user one, and he has received an email and he has clicked on that attachment and that got downloaded. And after that, that download might create some botnet callback, create some malware, do some registry changes, which will again do a callback to another malicious or bot servers, right? And then at the same time, somebody is using that user's username and password to kind of log into the user account. Now, if you look at this MITRE framework, uh, and we talk about Defender XDR. So we're gonna obviously say that the EDR and other pieces of Defender in our later sessions, but just for understanding, imagine that there is one alert in Defender for Office saying that malicious attachment said, right? That will be falling in one of these either initial access or phishing or something like that, right? Then from identity protection or entry protection, we might see a brute force alert because someone is trying to log in. Then from somewhere in Defender for endpoint, you might see a lateral movement or command and control if the botnet is successful or somebody tries to do that. Now, depending on this MITRE framework, what Defender internally does, it basically maps, it uses security graph behind the scene and maps, like for example, user A has something wrong in their mailboxes, some low alert and mailboxes. Same time, user A has also something on their endpoint, some other thing on their data, right? So combining all these things, there is something called multi-stage attack detection. Because Defender also references this MITRE, it can correlate the exact tagging. So let's say one of the Defender system sees initial access, then another Defender system says there is a persistent attack tried out from either EDR or Defender for Office or any other entry ID protection and things like that. And then again, another system sees credential access or discovery. So that small alert is combined by Defender for XDR using this framework as a reference, so that it can give us a solidified information and lot more confident incident, so that when you see that, we can always see the evidence, okay, why it is saying it's multiple, multi-stage attack. That helps us in two ways. Number one, we would understand, okay, if the user is, someone is trying to compromise the user from multiple ways, or if the user is already infiltrated and then attacker has actually reached out to certain kill chain label, and then we can terminate that easily, right? So as long as we know that the attacker is in credential access space, that will be quite easier for us as an analyst or even defender to stop that, rather without knowing where the attack came from, right? So that's what the reference is really really important here. Now, coming back to the defender piece, let me click on done, and let me go to incident alert. So fundamentally, anything which is not right. So as we have talked about, advanced hunting, right? Advanced hunting gives raw data. Now have built policies, we have options to build detection rules as well. Whenever certain criteria is met, someone is trying to someone's trying to fish an email, someone is trying to send an malware, that basically creates an alert within Defender. And as you can see here, right, even whenever as an admin I have initiated certain things, right, it has actually said that, okay, this is the alert we are in. And when multiple alerts of same kind, Defender understand, okay, this is same alert, same user, same entity comes in, that kind of clubs them into one or more than one incident, right? And obviously by default these things are set to 1 week. You can go to, as I said, 30 days or more than that. And as you can see here, right, so if I see and expand this incident, it knows that, and it's going to show me mostly the alerts tagged within this. So that's where it is. An incident can have more than one alerts, or yeah, and then it can combine that into a single incident, so that that's where you can act on, right? So again, to summarize whatever we have discussed today, imagine that you have an organization and you are administrating an organization which is very well defined. You have the policies fine tuned, everything is running smooth. Really, you have a lower number of true positives, and you're able to manage all your incident. Your SOC team is well distributed in terms of load and incident analysis. Then you can always go and do an advanced hunting to understand some sort of attack differences. Let's say URL redirection, the example I gave. And in there as well, you can actually use two methods. Sorry, use two methods actually, in terms of advanced hunting. How how is that? Number one, you start writing query on your own if you know the logic, or you can use the editor to get started with the query, right? So that's one thing. Now eventually, when you get to set up Defender and Defender for Office, you get to a position that you will really see lot of incident coming in and a lot of alerts also coming in. And once they come in, what happens is, as an analyst, we are supposed to dig down. Defender gives us well enough information, which is really nice, but at times we might need to dig down something deeper and deeper, and that takes obviously time. Now if we know that, and if a fair understanding that alert, what that alert means at a high level, we can always start a automated investigation and response, right? Now in that case, the investigation can be fully automated, and as I have shown, let me also try to go to, not action and submissions, I think investigations. So that will show you the list of investigated one. And let me, I think it's still running, right? Let me open this one and see what running means. So it is still going on, and that should give you, the fair understanding of what's being done around that. So no logs collected, or I think 8 logs are right, which is nice. And you see, it is saying that it is going to investigate and it is going to perform all these actions without any interaction. And out of these things, almost half of them are completed, right? And once it's complete, it can give you a conclusion, and in the investigation graph we should be able to see it is completed. And according to that, we can also parallelly initiate an action, which, based on the approval of the admin center, if we want to take it, we can take it. If we don't want to take it, we can cancel it, right? So coming to the summary of the thing is, we can do advanced hunting as a proactive hunting or threat hunting in Defender with 30 days of data if we have to. And then fundamentally, once we have an incident flow wherein we know that incident is, there's really a big incident queue, we can always create a automated investigation which performs all these steps defined by Microsoft. And we can also add a remediation if we want to, and then that can wait till the investigation is complete. Nothing is going to happen automatically as a response. It is not going to, Defender is not going to delete automatically a mail from a user's mailbox without an admin or without a user who is responsible for the security intervening it, right? And then that's how you save time, but still you have your control, how to manage and how to deal with the emails over here. Now, as an outcome, obviously, one thing is deleting emails, but there are a lot of other outcomes also which can appear. For example, you see that after you do like 20, 30 automated investigation, every time you see that you're deleting a soft email, that is fine, but that might be coming from a particular domain. So as a bigger remediation, right, you can always pick up the domain and then block the domain in your mail settings, right? So that nobody should receive an email from that domain. That's a bigger fix, I would say, right? And that fix you'll be able to only apply because you are really saving time by doing automated investigation and response, right? And and as I mentioned about the MITRE framework, this is used as a reference to understand the multi-stage attack detection, which Defender uses it as a reference, right? Now, coming back to the advanced hunting piece again, if you want to, you know, if you want to do that, let's say you want to have a data beyond 30 days for a forensics for some other purposes, right? So the way you do it, let me go to settings, and I think it should be Defender for XDR settings, wherein there should be a seam settings, or how do I create the settings? And there is one streaming API, and obviously because we have a parallel sentinel configured, that's where you see, let me click on this, it's gonna push it to all the things whatever comes in into the seam. And it's not only for MDO, it's more of a generic XDR settings, right? Yeah, these are the things what kind of configured here, right? Let me cancel it for now. And you can always add two things. Number one, forward to Azure storage account, or forward to a event hub over here. So that's where you can also store your data for a longer term, right? So with that, I think I'll have one question to address. So is there a way to have self approval for the action center pending action, that an admin
No,
can't approve their own actions?
more of a not to have, right? Because I think that makes sense. You yourself shouldn't be approving your own.
Uh, Again, I mean, that's a good question, but I am able to approve because possibly I'm a security admin, and as a security admin, that possibly makes sense to an extent, right? Because if I'm really, trying to uh, stop a fire, I might need to take that, but it is not available for all the roles for all the time. So hope that's a good point. Again, for that you always have, okay, let me go. That's really a good question to have who watches. So I think if you go to Action Center, let me, where is the Action Center? You have submissions and you have action centers. So you can, let me just click on any of these. History, in history, what is there? Click on this. See this? So you you can still go ahead and watch who did this. So that's the kind of answer. So it is given in a way that we should be able to tackle things, and it is more of just a hop, so that whoever is clicking the button, he knows it, and we can always have a audit trail of who did it, right? So with that said, I think Vignesh, if you have anything
Yeah,
to add, otherwise we can open it up for questions.
sure. So what I basically wanted to share, folks, is some useful links if at all you want to get started with this. And I'll also be posting this on the recording URL also on YouTube and in the description section. But that's pretty much what we wanted to talk about today, right? So with that, thanks a lot for your time. And our next session, which I said getting started with Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, will be on May 4th at 6 p.m. IST. So with this, we are done with Defender for Office 365, and then we'd like to pivot and get into Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, right? So with that, thanks a lot. And if at all you have any further questions, now would be the time to unmute and start asking those questions. Thank you.
And I'll also stop sharing, Vignesh, if you could share